Hey, knife enthusiasts, how you all doing today? We have a real treat for you. We have Cody from Adventure Sworn. Now, anybody who knows anything about outdoor stuff, especially knives, cutting tools, knows Cody's stuff. He's been in the business for many years. He'll tell us his background, but not many of you have seen him or got him on the phone. And one of our viewers recently asked me, "How do I get the guy? Like once I put an order in, am I going to hear from him? Like I heard he's hard to get hold of." I said the only reason he's hard to get hold of is because he's busy making your knives, right? He's not a large shop. He's a medium-sized shop, and he gets out the stuff pretty quick. I have to say, I have bought most of my stuff secondhand, but I did buy a knife or two from him directly. And while I purchased, I had communication with Cody if I had any questions or concerns, and got beautiful knives. So really, we want Cody to talk a lot. We'll show you some eye candy along the way as we do, and I hope you guys will, comment and let us know moving forward if you have any questions. But Cody, tell us how you got started in the knife business.
How I got started. Huh. Well, basically, I was into wilderness survival when I was about 17 to 20. I was training to be a wilderness survival instructor,
Oh
and
wow.
I was using a piece of crap knife from Walmart. It was so
Been there, done that.
it was so bad that I would actually just leave it home most of the time and just take my Granford Brooks axe, and
Oh,
just
fan. Which is your axe of choice for Grand Forest Brooks?
I was using, and I probably still prefer the Scandinavian forest hat. I like the,
Fantastic.
yep, yep. That's all I would use. And eventually I decided I wanted to buy a good knife. And I realized that all these guys had a multi-year waiting list and it was hundreds of dollars. And I was like broke and, impatient. So I
I
wasn't able
think
to.
everybody can relate to Cody. We've all been there.
Yeah, yeah. So I decided to make. I found out there was one. There wasn't a lot of content back in like 2007 ish on on how to make knives. So I found one video. I don't know if you saw this a long time ago. It's by this guy Green Pete, and he makes a knife out of a file. And I was just like, ooh, I want to do that. So I tried it. It came out okay. I actually got it right here.
No way.
It didn't turn
That's
out
the
too
first
good.
knife you ever made?
Yep, I made it out of
That
a
is
file.
fantastic.
You know, it had problems, but overall,
Looks a little
I
bit like a pig
decided,
sticker.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of a weird shape. Yeah, I was winging it, So, but I ended up taking that one and not finishing it because I wasn't happy with it. And I ordered some steel, and then I took it from there.
That's amazing because the other people that we spoke to that we've interviewed so far, Kyle Noseworthy, most noteworthy, no pun intended. They came from a business where their parents and grandparents were like machinists or they were always puttering around. You're saying you were self-taught out of necessity. You had a need and you decided, hey, I can do this and I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, I had some equipment. My dad, he was a car builder and he built electric guitars for a living, like
Oh,
custom
there we go.
ones.
There we go.
And so he had some woodworking tools. He had some belt sanders and stuff like that. So the first 450 knives I made were on just a 1 by 30 little belt grinder that he had,
Wow, wow,
and
wow.
a lot of his stuff he would get real pissed off because he had some like real nice cocoa bolo and ebony and all this stuff, and I would just take it and use it for knife handles. But,
You'll get to
yeah,
that with the wood.
yeah. Yeah, it was a heck of a learning curve. This is that Walmart knife, by the way. This was my first
You have
project.
that too. That's
Yep.
amazing.
I put a new handle on it
I was gonna
because
say it didn't look like a Walmart handle.
yeah, yeah. This is not very pretty, but at least it wasn't giving me blisters. And then I changed the geometry and it started losing its head immediately. So I was like, I was having a real hard time, and so I started, I was obsessed with frame mirrors at that time, so I wanted to make something like that. So yeah, the
There's
first.
something we'll get into, which you'll educate us on. People don't realize how much edge geometry has to do with the cutability of the knife. You could take a cheaper knife and really turn it into something useful if you're good at changing the edge geometry, as opposed to super steel and having a thick behind the edge type blade and it won't cut very well.
Yeah, yeah, that happens. Like, you'll see a lot of people using really high-end steel, and the knives still don't perform like you'd want. Like, I like really aggressive cutting edges. I'm not a fan of having my wrist hurt after 45 minutes of carving. That kind of drives me crazy. So I like something that kind of goes through it like yeah, when I was a kid, I saw how Ray Mears was able to cut through sticks that were, thumb thickness with like no problem. And I was
Mhm.
like, I want that because that's what I never had. So that's what I try to make now. So yeah.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Well, let's get into the eye candy a little bit. We'll talk about it, and then whatever else you want to
Sure.
talk about.
Sure.
Just a little bit more in the background first, actually. You started out, doing it yourself. How many people you have working in your shop now?
Right now it's just Amber and I. Yeah. It started with Amber and I. She made the
That's
first
his
sheet.
wife, by the way. She's his partner and best friend, right? In case she
Yeah,
watches it.
yeah, exactly. Running at about
And
20
she's
minutes.
working right now.
She is. She's actually just going down in the morning. That's what her jam has been, and she's doing sheaths right now. We've got a bunch of huntsman and tradesman orders that we're getting ready to start shipping out this week. So we got a lot of work to do there. It took a while to get the steel this round, and that tends to happen, especially when Crucible is going out of business and there's kind of like a lot of demand for that steel. Yeah, because we're using Magna Cut. So it kind of took a while to get the blades in, but now we're going to be just making them one piece flow, getting them out the door. So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, everything goes through Cody's hands, by the way. Everything's made one at a time, handmade, and nothing leaves until Cody sees it, which is why you never see something imperfect coming out. And I want to get back to that steel, Crucible and Magna Cut for a bit, but let's start with some eye candy. So basic plain Jane is probably the first one I ever got used on eBay, but now everybody's buying and selling on knifeenthusiast.com, of course, right? Came with a nice sheath. This is one of your sheaths, older one. And
yep.
this one has bolts. I know. Now, do you always use pins now? Are you using bolts sometimes? Was the idea so that you could change handles? And this is an O1.
Yep. So that's like those are what we call our series for removable scales. So technically, well, I mean, it's not necessarily for the customer to move, but if they want to do some maintenance underneath, wax on underneath, they can do that.
So
But
so that's still available now? You're doing it both ways?
yeah, I offer R series and E series epoxy. So like epoxy uses like this one, it uses like loveless bolts,
Oh,
and
that's gorgeous.
yeah, yeah. So this is copper loveless bolts on this one, and it's
What
different.
wood was that, by the
More
way?
permanent. That is walnut actually. This knife's like I said, I really don't keep many knives in the shop. This one is getting shipped out in an hour or two. So
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, yeah, we don't really keep any. So if we ever have locals like come visit and check out the shop, I feel bad because they're expecting to see this whole collection of knives, and like, I only make what we get orders for, and then they're out the door, within I ideally as fast as possible within a week or so. So
Yeah,
yeah.
by the way, I mean, I've spoken to Mike Stewart a bunch of times, and as you know in his videos, he always says, this one's Black Mike Hard, it's mine. He probably has 1,000 knives. Cody and I spoke before, and just like some other people we interview, he's a minimalist. He lives in a, can I say? Is it okay?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He lives in a 400 square foot apartment. Is that right?
Yeah. It's above the knife shop. There's a little strip where we live. Yeah. It's
He's
four,
got a
four.
stream in the back, which is gorgeous. You'd all be jealous. And when I asked him, pull out some knives so we can see it, he's like, I really only have one knife. And I said, excuse me? He's like, yeah, like I made this knife like 8 years ago, and that's what I use,
Yep.
so I don't really need another one. And I was
Yep.
kind of like embarrassed. I'm hoping he's not watching my short video where I show like, 300 knives that I have because, the knife maker himself. But maybe it's like the shoemaker's kids doesn't have shoes. I don't know. Or you can make one on the spot if you need it. So
I mean, I've like usually when I want a knife for myself, I have to squeeze it in between orders, and it's like that knife I use now took me like a year and a half to make, just because
see, guys, you come first. The customer comes first.
that's just how it is. And like right now, I'm making a Bowie knife, myself, and that's been taking, oof, I don't know, I've been on that for about a year now, and it's
What
still in
steel?
the.
What steel you making it in?
I'm experimenting with this one. I was gonna do 3V like I did my other frontiersmans, but this one is AEBL because it's quarter-inch thick, 10.5 inch blade. So I wanted to do something that might be a little easier to sharpen, and if it can hold an edge good, and it's a very tough steel, so it should be able to hold an edge good and be easier to sharpen than 3V. So
I
we'll see. You know.
I believe ABL is what they use in razors, correct?
Yeah, yeah. It's
A very sharp edge.
probably my favorite steel right now for Scandi grinds. I was
Huh.
talking with a couple of guys I know, Nate Carruthers and
And Nate's
like,
fantastic. We're gonna
uh,
get him up and running too. His wife Jo is fantastic. She's
yeah,
really, really lovely
he's
people.
awesome. If I have questions, especially on machining and stuff like that, I ask Nate. He's
Yeah, he
in my
forgot more
opinion,
than most people will ever know.
he's really knowledgeable. Yeah, he's always happy to share information. So that's one of the things I noticed early on is when I would ask knife makers like Bernie Garland and Mick Spain, I would ask them questions and they would tell me. And so whenever anyone asks me questions, I'm totally transparent. I'll tell you where I buy stuff. I don't care. None of this is trade secret stuff. I'll do a video showing how I grind my edges. It doesn't really matter. If like just because they help me out and I kind of want to like return the favor. You know what I mean?
That's wonderful. We were talking about before the knife community, the gun community, outdoor sports in general, the cigar community. Everybody's wonderful. Like, you meet them and you want to talk. The cigar, a little aside, I spoke to a guy about cigars the other day because I've been looking into getting into a shop, and he was wonderful, gave me all his knowledge, even though he's opening up a shop. And he's like, by the way, I have a cigar line. I'll send you a few. And I'm like, okay, no problem. Tell me where to send this out. He goes, no, 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 no. The first, like a drug deal, a little bit. The first ones are free, but then after that,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to buy
Well,
them. But
yeah.
people are really wonderful. They really have been. Um,
Mhm.
just some more eye candy over here I have. So that was one that was obviously used pretty well. This is another O1 with the bolts. And what I really like what you do is on some knives, this one doesn't have it. Let's get to the next one. And the different knife steels you're using, we'll talk about. Sometimes you put your stamp right on the blade, and sometimes, as I'll show you, which is my favorite, by the way, you put them right on the thickness of the spine, which is gorgeous. This one happens to be in S35VN. Sorry, this side. And this thing slices like an animal. I couldn't believe it. The different steels that I have that you're using are the O1, which is always the classic, fantastic steel. 3V is my favorite out of all. I do like Magna Cut. I'm not bashing, but I think like there's a little bit of hype going on. You got to decide what you're going to do, and then you pick the steel. It's not just like one steel does everything, for everybody. So ABL, great stainless. S35VN, great stainless. Magna Cut, great stainless. But if I don't need stainless, I want the toughness of 3V. If I want something easy to sharpen, to your point, I might want the ABL or I want the O1. And I just feel like everybody's jumping on a bandwagon and not thinking about really what they want it for before they start. For me, S35VN is I want something that's going to keep an edge a long time, fantastic edge stability, but also has stainless to it, but it's not going to be as tough. I'm not going to beat on it as much. You have tougher steels out there. You have the 3V, obviously the king, even 1095, crew wear, so this is for somebody who's like carving a lot and slicing a lot. I wouldn't do a lot of drilling. I wouldn't do a lot of beating on it. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, my Explorer I've been using for the past 8 years or so. It's 8th inch 3V. It works pretty good. 61 Rockwell, I believe it was. No problems with that. For a Scandi, AEBL might actually hold an edge slightly longer than 3V, which is really weird.
Really?
Yeah, it's just because of how. And me and Nate were talking about it, and I was talking about it with Laren Thomas too. And it seems like it's probably 3V is going to probably hold a longer edge in convex. It's going to hold a longer edge in um, uh, flat grinds and things like that. But for Scandi, it's such a weird angle, and it's such, you have to go with such a fine edge. And Scandi's like a really high polish, whereas with a lot of other grinds, they benefit from a slight degree of toothiness. Like if it's convex, you're doing a slicing motion, you want a little touch of that. So you might finish it with a 220 grit and then strop it and get it hair shaving.
Really? Just on a 220? That's as far as you go?
Well, I mean, if I'm using wet and dry, it really depends on what I'm doing. But yeah, 320 maybe. Whereas with the Scandi, you want to go as polished as you can so that it just glides because you're doing push cut more like a chisel rather than
Right,
slicing. And
right.
AEBL is extremely fine grain structure, but there's something about it. Its edge stability is just wild. It doesn't hold an amazing edge for the slicing like chores where you're
Interesting.
where there's a lot of abrasion. It does like 3V holds an edge very good with it's pretty abrasion resistant as well. and it's really pretty stainless. I mean, I haven't run into issues with 3V rusting
Yeah, I
personally.
have no staining on any of mine. I was really shocked
Yeah.
about that. I was
Yep.
expecting like A2, the second you take it out of your sheath, I mean, it's already staining, you
Yeah,
know.
and O1 kind of this 1095, they all do the same thing. And it's one of those things. It's like I've always been like an O1 guy, and I would bring my O1 knife, like it would be submerged on my belt in a swamp, and I wouldn't even take it out of the sheath or dry it out overnight, and it'd get a little rust. And I'm lucky I'm able to fix it, but
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 if you're using it, a lot of butchers still use 1095. If you're constantly using it, it doesn't have time to rust.
yeah, it's true. I mean, you're constantly using it, and you take it out and just dry it off mostly. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually like I do everything that I recommend my customers don't do with my knives. Like I'm pretty bad on that's just how it is. But the customers know there's a really good warranty. Like I always found that really interesting. There was this company that had a really good warranty with their products, and there was something about it. I ended up not necessarily it had something to do like an ATV or something, but I didn't end up getting one. But I liked it, and I decided to have something like that. So I started calling it an heirloom warranty, and a lot of other people have picked up that term too. I don't know if I was the first one doing it, but a lot of people use the term heirloom warranty now because even if it's handed down or traded, you don't need the receipt. It doesn't matter. I can tell what's mine. I've had guys send in a knife that was recovered after a house fire. I'm like, that's covered. Send it in.
Oh, wow.
and
Wouldn't that
and
mess with the heat treat though?
yeah, I had to reheat treat it. I had to anneal it and then reheat treat it, and then I
Oh,
put on a new
wow.
panel. And yeah, it's good to go. And
That's dedication.
also,
So you have heirloom quality, you have heirloom um,
yeah,
warranties, and I just learned something. I didn't realize, I mean, I guess I should have, that, I like certain steels, but like you're saying, in certain grinds, they perform better, and steels that may not have been my favorite in a certain grind, like you're saying, ABL, which, I don't have a lot of experience with, but I never found to be like so wonderful in terms of my use. I don't have a Scandi grind in that. So I
yeah,
actually noticed that you went to that, and I was a little surprised. I'm like, it seemed like a little bit of a downgrade. But you're saying from everybody you speak to in your experience in the Scandi grind, that may actually outperform other things that would outperform it in a different grind, a flat grind or a convex. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. It's really weird how that is because I wasn't super interested in trying ABL. A customer, a guy I know, Kevin, he really talked it up, and I tried it out, and I was like, why is this holding such an obscene edge, even more so than my other steels? And but it again, it's specifically on a Scandi grind. It pairs really good with it. A saber convex, it really depends on how you use it. If you're doing push cuts, then you're probably gonna like AEBL. General purpose, I think my favorite steel is probably 3V. Magna Cut's somewhere in the mix. I don't have a lot of experience with Magna Cut, but I did some
Mhm.
tests and I was impressed by it. So I decided to pair it with models that I thought would work really good with it. In this case, the Huntsman and the Tradesman. Both are going to be getting exposed to water, blood, food, things like that. And the higher corrosion resistance is going to be nice. So I'm looking forward to that. I got about a 70 to 100 of those to make over this next month and a half.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so that's gonna be
Something else that we didn't talk about is the heat treat. And I mean, they're not all created equal. Just to use pocket knives as an example, Spyderco Benchmade, I feel have a very good heat treat on their S30V, which you can get an S30V from somewhere else, and it's not going to perform as well. So they're treating this. Are you getting things optimally heat treated for what you need, or are you buying on the open market and you're going with whatever the manufacturer suggests?
yeah. So like when we make the blade, we usually have a specific use in mind. Like if it's going to be like a big chopper, I might go slightly lower on the Rockwell for toughness. But in the case of let's take these huntsmans and tradesmans for example, I went with a 63 Rockwell on it for the Magna Cut because it kind of is happy with that. Some people go 64. I'm keeping it about 63, and
That's a hard 63.
that's pretty hard. I mean, I do my
Yeah.
A2 at 62 or my AEBL at 62 and my 3V. I've been doing 3V lately at 62 as well, which is a little high for 3V, but
Right, right.
it seems to do good for these sub 5 inch knives.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
Just so our viewers know, a lot of you will probably have use of 10 experience with 1095. Most 1095s are somewhere like in the 58 range, or something like that. So 62
Yeah.
is pretty hard to start. Like 10 years ago, 62 would have been wow. Now people are pushing things past that 64. You have things like ZDP that go even higher than that. But that's pretty amazing that you're still getting toughness out of something anywhere over 60 on the Rockwell,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Mhm.
No,
That's fantastic. So a little bit more eye candy over here. Now we got our 3V version, I believe, which again is my favorite. Also has the bolts that change. By the way, we didn't talk about this yet. Your sheaths. Well, let's talk about handle first. Your handles are fitted perfectly. You have that Coke bottle wash wipe design that everybody likes, kind of like a. This is not the Bushel. This is your Explorer model, I believe. Yeah, Explorer model. It's got a nice belly. It can do double duty in the woods. You could probably, skin and process game with this as well. His fitting on his handles are unbelievable. There's no high spots. The bolts aren't countersunk to different types of depths. But what I get excited about, which I don't usually, are your sheaths. You have fantastic sheaths, and that's a big pet peeve that I have. A lot of companies. Bark River, he's going to get mad at me, Mike, when I interview him, but when he went to those ambi sheaths, I've been hating on him. You still have right hand and left hand. I love me a dangler, and your dangler is second to none. It's got a little screw in it. You can remove it if you want. You can wear it on there if you want. You left enough room. I love the ferro rod loop, and also it's not huge and bulky. It's like, I wouldn't call it a minimalist design, but it's as big as it needs to be, and not any bigger. It's just
yeah,
beautiful. This you and your wife are making, I believe.
yeah, that there is that's Amber. She's made
Wow.
and she's still doing she's doing it. She's making it right now. Yeah, she's not just a leather worker either. She helps in the shop. She now does some of the knives too. She does about she does a bunch of the like gluing scales to liners. She does some of the contouring, like hand sanding and stuff like that too. So because she's do take less time than a knife, so there's usually a little bit of spare time for her. So she likes to, she's a workhorse. She's got that from her father.
Well, they are flawless. I mean, I haven't gotten one that was like, out of shape or didn't hold the knife. It's another thing, you always want it, to be easy to
I
take
got
out.
one
Some of these,
around here. It's the same situation you got going on.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's not coming out, but it's not hard to take out. Like, I feel people usually go one way or the other. Sometimes they're so hard, you're afraid you're going to slice your sheath and your hand when you're pulling it out, and some of them just slip out. This is perfect.
yeah, like I found that to be a big deal too. And also, we set it up to where we noticed a lot of customers would buy multiple knives, but really wanted to have interchangeable sheaths. So we used to have like a little spot, like somewhere, like a little dip down here, and it would
Hmm.
follow the blade shape depending on the model. But it makes
Hmm.
it's not interchangeable at that point. So
Right.
with
So that's like the older ones that I have.
yeah, exactly. So
That had that.
that's less versatile. You
Yeah.
know, some people prefer it, but it is a little less versatile.
It's not pouchy. It's not sloppy. It's very well done. This one actually is a aftermarket sheath because I got this aftermarket. You actually, this one's an '01. I think you told me this was Koa wood. This is stunning. Absolutely stunning. So, I bought it several years ago, and actually there's a chip in it, and I sent it back into you for your spa, and you just took it out. Um, and I mean, it was probably stained up, and I mean, it came back looking like brand new. It was unbelievable, and a good amount of time as well. Um, so my favorite, I mean, actually, my favorite one is the 3V. That's just what I like. But favorite one that I like looks on is I love the color combination on the S35 that I have. But I treated myself once, and I bought. I don't know if it was custom or you were doing it for a certain while over here. You had this beautiful, beautiful. What's this model called again?
That's a classic. It's basically based off the Woodlore knife.
Right, that's a woodlore knife, right? And this one is in 3V, and it's got cinnamon liners in there. Another thing Cody does, which is fantastic, as anybody, your viewers know, I got these meaty hands, and it's hard for me to hold knives that are too skinny. I get tired very quickly. I get pinch points. Cody actually has a number system, if I'm correct, in terms of the thickness of your liners. I think everybody should do that. So 1 through 5, and you can order them as thick or as thin as you want. Now, places like Bark River will make you a custom thicker or thinner hand, but this is right on his website. It's absolutely fantastic. And another thing that I like about my outdoor knives is that what I call, I don't know if Mike Stewart came up with this, quick taper tip, or maybe it was Cold Steel, Lynn Thompson. That really gives you that stability on the ends if you need to drill things. And I've snapped the end off of knives. Good knives and good steels. It wasn't the knife's fault. It just wasn't up to the task. So yeah, this is the classic wood lore, and something I wanted to show you also. Again, Cody does not own the wood lore design as far as I know, but he perfected it, if you ask me. And other people kind of copy it, but I think they kind of go after Cody's design a little bit more than the wood lore. This is somebody quick hatch premium knives I bought secondhand, and it kind of looks. He went a little thicker over here, a little thicker in the handle, but he did the Coke bottle, and he did the basic shape. And it's pretty good, but that's something about your knives that just like magic. They slice through things like lasers. Like unbelievable. Another one, a little bit smaller version of the same. There's a guy out there, Wilderness Spirit. So he's got the pretty close blade shape, although there's a little bit of a drop in there. But his handle's a little bit too thin for me. Again, he went Coke bottle. See how short it is, though? And it's not as thick. Like, you gave us plenty of length on there for my hand. See this? I'm just about there. I mean, that's important, and especially for people, not that I use my knives for chopping a lot, but if you want to chop and you got a lanyard on it, especially, you can get to the end of it a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I personally use the Explorer and with the Leku grip where you're holding it like that and wrist flick chopping a lot. The longer handle I liked. It's not just for larger hands; it's for more leverage as well in the chest lever grip and things like that. You can really just like I said, I like knives that are really aggressive and can just plow through wood with no problem. Because I've used, like I said, I've used the opposite, and it kind of sucks. So yeah,
That's
uh,
fantastic. I'm
yeah,
gonna put this together while we're still talking, but this, if
oh
you can
yeah,
see it, I can come back a little bit. Cody doesn't just make knives; he makes other outdoor tools. Do you want to tell us about how the buck saws started? You said your father makes them, I think.
yeah. That's something that my dad does on the side, and we've been doing that since I think 2015. He's done a few thousand buck saws as well. I think that one there looks cool. That might be zebra wood. I'm not sure, but
That's exactly what it is. It's zebra wood.
yeah, those are real rare. Yeah, but
Now they just kind of
uh,
fold out and they pop together. Like I said, I'm going to try and do it while I'm here. Um, Tell us a little bit what you're doing going forward. Any new projects?
right now we're just trying to focus on. Well, currently we've got a handful of custom orders, and those have a longer waiting list, and we're just trying to get them done. It's not multiple years like it used to be, but it's still months, and so we're just getting taking care of our order list. We're not taking in new custom orders at the moment. So we should be caught up within a month and a half, and then we're going to be maybe messing around with some new models. A lot of customers have been asking for cap parts. A lot of customers have been asking for maybe a Skook and Bush tool variant, something like that. Yeah.
Oh wow,
So
that's amazing.
there's definitely things on the horizon. I'm really getting into larger knives. I've always been an axe guy, but there's something about just a larger knife that's been really appealing to me, and I've been preferring those over my axe for some trips, for day hikes especially. So I've been considering doing some more larger models. So there's definitely new things on the horizon. Yeah, but right now
In the
we got so much demand for our typical like our three best sellers that there's not usually a lot of reason to make other models other than just it's fun and cool. Yeah,
and in
so
the larger models, like what kind of steels are you looking at?
for larger ones, mostly probably ABL, CPM 3V, pretty much just those two, I would say. And then for the smaller knives, Magna Cut 3V and AEBL. I don't really use O1 too much anymore, but every now and again, I'm going to offer it. People still like it. It's old school and it works really good.
Do you ever use LMAX? Because I feel like until Larentomics came up with Magnica, which again is a fantastic steel, LMAX really was like the unsung hero in the stainless toughness area. You have any experience with it?
I actually haven't made a knife with LMAX. I've made them out of CPM 154, CPM S35VN, like the one you had there. and I've done a couple other uh, just steels like A2 and stuff like that. But I haven't worked with a ton of steels. I'm with Elmax, I could give it a shot. People have asked me to try out crewware as well. I haven't
Mhm.
experimented with that yet, but I'm curious how that'll hold up. And I'm actually I did do a side by side test on with a Scandi grind with AEBL versus Magna Cut, and AEBL did slightly better.
Wow,
But
that's
I'm
something.
looking, yeah, but I'm looking to do AEBL versus 3V, a similar test, and I I wouldn't be surprised if it was really close or if 3V maybe outshined it in some ways, but then AEBL outshined it in other ways. Well, I'm gonna have to just do the test, and I might actually videotape this one because it's really thorough and scientific, and I have a good time
That
doing
would
it.
be cool. That would be really cool. Just to show you this, I'm gonna have to move back a little bit. I just been spinning this with my hands while I'm doing it. I'm not the most coordinated person out there. This took about 15 seconds to put together. Isn't this gorgeous?
Yeah, those are awesome.
If anybody who doesn't know a buck saw, you saw it before, was this all folded up? By the way, I take like those Ranger bands and keep it around just to keep it together. And what this is, it's a tensioner. And you just keep spinning it and you actually put tension on it, but it folds up nice and easy. And you can go through some pretty good logs with this thing. And besides, it's gorgeous. Like you said, I ordered it in zebra wood. He has different options. And it's just an unbelievable thing to put in your pack that ends up being probably about, this big in terms of your profile, a little bit thicker.
I have to weigh about one
Fantastic,
pound,
fantastic tool. What's that?
weigh about 1 pound on average. You know.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's very light. That's something else we didn't talk about. Your knives are very, very light for what they are. Some things feel heavy in the hand. The balance is fantastic, right about where it should be, you know, and unbelievable,
I
unbelievable
mean,
multi-use, fantastic outdoor knife. Do
yeah,
you
I
have
mean,
that? Show us that first knife that you had. I forgot. The
yeah,
knife,
I
not the
mean,
first knife, the knife that you use. Did you
oh, the
find
knife
that?
that I use, I actually, I was just looking for it. I couldn't find it because I just
All right,
I
next
just went
time.
on a hike 2 days ago, but it is what it is. It's around it's been in videos and stuff. I use it quite a
Okay,
bit,
awesome,
and
awesome.
yeah. I mean, I am actually looking to make myself about 5 new knives coming up this year. I've got more time now that if everything.
Unbelievable.
Uh,
Well, we'd
but
love to hear about it. Maybe you'll showcase something on some upcoming videos. But I really, really want to thank you for coming out today. And anybody who wants, Cody, you wanna plug yourself? Tell where you can find your knives.
Yeah, just adventuresworn.com. Currently, the available knife section is slightly depressing, not a lot of options because, I've got a custom order list. But, after the end of April, definitely by June, there should be more options in there. And yeah, it fluctuates, but I have a newsletter. So when I have a substantial drop of knives, I send out a newsletter and let them know. And those are going to be becoming more and more common as I stop taking custom orders and focus on that.
Excellent, excellent.